Ever wonder what really happens on those so-called girls' trips? When she said she was off with friends for the weekend, I didn't question it, until my phone lit up with charge after charge from places that didn't make sense. By the end of the night, I wasn't just suspicious. I had all the proof I needed. My name is Marcus Hale. I'm 31 years old, a digital marketing consultant from Denver. I always considered myself level-headed, trusting, and never the type to snoop through a partner's phone or second-guess where they said they were going. So when my girlfriend, Tasha, mentioned she was taking a weekend girls' trip to Miami, I supported it without hesitation. She talked about beach lounging, brunches, and spa days with her college friends. I even dropped her off at the airport, gave her a kiss, and told her to have fun. There was nothing strange in the air. No warning signs. Just smiles, suitcases, and sunshine. But hindsight is sharp. Looking back, there were subtle tells. She was too rehearsed, too enthusiastic. Still, I let it go. Trust is a foundation, after all. And I had no idea mine was about to be cracked wide open. That first night without her, the apartment felt quiet, but it was normal. I scrolled through social media, expecting to see some fun group pictures. Nothing. No tags, no stories, no geotags from Miami. Maybe they were just enjoying the moment? I brushed it off. But then I remembered that Tasha always documented everything, from coffee runs to workout selfies. A trip like this? She'd be live posting the minute they landed. Still, I told myself not to overthink. But by 10 p.m., my phone buzzed with a charge notification from our shared credit card. A transaction from a steakhouse in Atlanta. Not Miami. I stared at it for a while, trying to rationalize it. Was it a connecting flight layover? A mistake? But something deep inside stirred. A knot tightening in my gut. The next morning brought another charge. This time from a boutique hotel. Again, in Atlanta. I checked the date, the time, the location, everything. It was clearly a check-in. I knew right then something was wrong. She told me they booked an Airbnb near South Beach. This wasn't just a discrepancy. It was a different city, a different plan altogether. I wanted to call her, confront her, demand an explanation, but I hesitated. Instead, I decided to gather more proof. If she was lying, I wasn't going to give her a chance to spin her story before I had everything in hand. Once I noticed the pattern, I couldn't look away. I kept the transaction notifications on, watching them roll in like clockwork. Designer store in Buckhead. Rooftop bar in Midtown. Breakfast spot downtown. All in Atlanta. All within a 5-mile radius. Every charge painted a clearer picture. She was living it up in a city she never mentioned, racking up receipts in real time, while I sat home thinking she was in Miami with old friends. I screenshotted everything. Every timestamp. Every merchant. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was building a case. One that would eventually speak louder than any excuse she could give. It was the little things that unraveled the big lie. She texted me a photo of the Airbnb view, a shot overlooking the ocean. I reverse image searched it out of curiosity and found it was lifted straight from a vacation rental website. Not her photo at all. She said she was out shopping with her friend Erica, but when I messaged Erica on Instagram, she replied, "Tasha's not on this trip. Is she? Haven't seen her since February." That was the nail in the coffin. Not only was she lying about her location, but she also used a friend's name without expecting me to ever double-check. But I did, and the illusion cracked even further. I activated the location-sharing app we both used months ago during a road trip. I was surprised to see it was still running. And there it was, her pin bright and blinking in Atlanta. I zoomed in. The same hotel from the charge earlier. She wasn't hiding. She was just assuming I wasn't looking. I watched the dot move throughout the day, matching every transaction to a physical spot. It wasn't just dishonesty now. It was boldness. She had plotted out a weekend that she never expected I'd be able to trace. But she miscalculated just how connected we were digitally. At around 1:43 a.m., a charge came through from an upscale speakeasy known for its couples-only ambience. A few hours earlier, she had texted me, "Good night, babe, going to bed early." The lie stung, but it was the timestamp that twisted the knife. She hadn't just gone out with someone. She had gone out after pretending to be asleep. That specific transaction felt personal. Not just a betrayal of trust, but of intention. It said everything I needed to know about what kind of weekend she was really having. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, staring into the dark, wondering who I had really been dating all this time. By the second night, I began to see a pattern. Every location, every charge, every hour was calculated. Morning brunches, afternoon spa treatments, late dinners. There was no downtime, no mention of friends, no pictures posted online. It was a getaway built for two. I felt sick thinking about what I wasn't seeing, the parts between transactions, the hotel room, the conversations, the intimacy. I wasn't just watching her spend money. I was watching the story of her cheating unfold one transaction at a time. And yet I kept watching, because the more I saw, the more certain I became that this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was betrayal in high definition. I knew I couldn't just blurt it all out when she came back. I needed to stay calm, measured, undeniable. I started compiling everything into a folder. Screenshots of charges, reverse image results, maps with pins, texts from her friends. My plan wasn't just to confront her. It was to make sure there was no escape route, no gaslighting, no manipulation. I rehearsed what I would say, not to hurt her, but to protect myself. I had questions, yes, but more than anything, I wanted honesty. And if not honesty, then at least closure. If she was going to lie, she would have to do it staring at her own receipts. She FaceTimed me twice during the trip. Once from what she said was the Airbnb patio, where the lighting was so dim I could barely make out anything behind her. Another time from inside what looked like a generic hotel hallway. I didn't say anything then. I let her perform. I asked how the girls were, and she rattled off a list of names and anecdotes. Too smooth, too clean, like a script. I listened, responded, but inside I was just comparing her lies to the truth I already had saved in a folder. She didn't know yet, but her story had already failed. The final blow came Saturday night with a charge from a rooftop hotel bar that offered a romantic getaway package. It included champagne service, private seating, and dessert for two. The itemized bill made it obvious. 2 entrees, 2 drinks, 1 shared dessert. I didn't need more. That receipt told the full story. Not just cheating, not just lying. It was premeditated, indulgent, and completely hidden from me. That was when I stopped hoping for an explanation. I didn't want to hear why. I just wanted to be done. I set the folder aside, sat back, and waited for her to come home and face what she thought would stay buried forever. When she walked through the door, I greeted her calmly. She seemed cheerful, recounting tales of her girls' trip and showing me souvenirs. I listened, allowing her to weave her narrative. Then, I presented the folder with all the evidence. Her face went pale as she flipped through the documents. The facade crumbled, and she realized that her lies had been exposed. She stammered, trying to explain, but the truth was laid bare. She tried to cry, tried to tell me she was lonely, that we'd grown apart. She claimed she needed something exciting, that she didn't plan for it to happen, but I wasn't there for damage control. I had heard enough. The problem wasn't just the betrayal, it was the effort she put into hiding it. The layers, the acting, the ease with which she lied to my face. Tears felt hollow, like part of the same performance I'd watched unfold on FaceTime. In the end, she knew the apology wouldn't fix it. So did I. I told her to leave that night. She protested, said we should talk, that couples go through rough patches. But I wasn't in a rough patch. I was standing in the wreckage of something she blew up deliberately. My breaking point wasn't the affair itself. It was how calculated and remorseless the whole thing was. I sat on the edge of the bed after she left, looking at the folder one last time. Then I threw it in the trash. I didn't need it anymore. The story had been written, and I was done being a character in her fiction. Explaining it to people was harder than I expected. My friends were furious on my behalf. My sister offered to fly in just to keep me company. My mom said something simple that stuck with me. You didn't lose her, Marcus. You let her go. It reframed everything. I hadn't been dumped. I'd made a decision to protect my peace. As the days passed, sharing my story became easier. Not because the pain went away, but because I was no longer hiding from it. The truth had set me free. The first week without her was strange. The silence was loud. Her toothbrush still in the holder. Pair of earrings on the counter. But little by little, I cleaned it all out. I focused on my work, went back to the gym, reconnected with old friends. I didn't distract myself, I rebuilt. I allowed myself to feel everything, but I didn't let it define me. Pain is a season, not a sentence. And I was already on my way out of winter. What I took from all this wasn't bitterness. It was awareness. I learned to trust my gut, to ask questions early, to never ignore subtle shifts in energy. But more importantly, I learned how strong I really am. I learned that no matter how elaborate the lie, the truth has a way of finding you if you're willing to face it. I learned to love without losing myself. And I learned that closure doesn't always come in the form of answers. Sometimes, it comes in walking away without needing them. I wouldn't change how I handled it. I gave trust freely. I let her have the space to be honest. And when she wasn't, I didn't scream or break down. I stayed grounded. I let the truth speak for itself. If anything, I'd act sooner. But I don't regret how I responded. In a world where people lie easily, staying composed is its own kind of power. I wouldn't wish the experience on anyone, but I wouldn't erase it either. It showed me exactly who I am. With time, the weight lifted. I started dating again. Carefully, cautiously. I knew what I wanted now. And more importantly, I knew what I wouldn't tolerate. Clarity came not from forgetting the pain, but from understanding it. The past didn't haunt me. It informed me. I took up photography, started traveling more, even got a dog. Life didn't just go on, it got better. Not because of what happened, but because of how I grew through it. Trust is fragile, but it isn't irreparable. I learned to trust again. Not just others, but myself. My judgment. My instincts. The red flags I used to ignore now guide me. I rebuilt trust slowly, through small steps and honest conversations. It wasn't easy, and sometimes I doubted. But every time I showed up for myself, I felt stronger. Betrayal broke a version of me that needed to go. In its place, I built something better. And that made all the difference. And just like that, the girl's trip turned into a full-blown mystery. What would you have done if those charges started popping up on your phone? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe for more real-time revenge breakdowns, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next twist. Trust, but verify. See you in the next one.